which are required to start creating a new application. All right. So yesterday we discussed about what is an operator, and inside an operator, how do we access an application? So we always access an application via an access group, and inside an access group, you will have access to the portals. We call it as a end user portals, or we have developer portals, which is Dev Studio, App Studio, Admin Studio. So these studios are helpful for the doing the development activities, whereas end user portals you can see under the launch portal options. And we have access roles inside an access group at the bottom, which will tell us what all the restrictions that can be given for the operator who logs in. All right. So those kind of accesses we are going to define under the access group, and under the application, we have the list of application rule sets, which will combinedly have a rule set version as well. So each and every rule sets which we are going to utilize for doing the development activities, we need to define under the application. So in order to do the development, we need a rule set. So we need rule set to define an application. So inside an application, whatever the modules that we are going to develop as part of creating a rules or updating a rules, every rule should be associated to a rule set. And apart from that, we need to have a rule set version as well. So every rule will be tagged to a rule set and a rule set version. Okay, so these rule sets which are being provided by the Pega platform. So Pega by default it has certain rule sets provided, which is can be called as a libraries, which has a inbuilt capabilities that we can utilize develop the BPM sort of applications. Okay, so Pega is a leader of BPM, so business process modeling. So it is going to be it is a leader of BPM from last 10 years, and it is being continuing as a leader of BPM. So we, in order to define a new application, we also need to know what the application is built for whom we are building the application. So it's mandatory to know the application is built for which organization. Okay, so organization or client. Okay, so it is basically to whom the application we are going to build for. So that terminology we are going to call it as organization. Okay, so the client name you can call it as an organization. Okay, so the application, who is the owner of the application, so that is being funded by, so that is called as an organization. Under the organization, to which division it is being applied for. Division is a child of an organization. Inside an organization, you may have multiple divisions. Like HR is one division, development is one division, production is one division, support is one division. Okay, so there could be multiple divisions. Sales is one division. All right. So there are multiple divisions inside an organization. Inside an organization, we may have multiple divisions that we will define. Okay, and inside a division, we have a organization unit. It's a small team inside the division. So under the sales, you may have a European unit, you may have a Australian unit. So that means it's a sub unit which is there under the same division. Okay, so that is called as a organization unit. So we should have a organization, division, and organization unit defined to whom this particular application is going to be developed. So these things will be automatically created. So organization, division, and organization unit instances will be generated automatically once we create a new application. Okay, so this organization units we need to define even for an operator as well. So for every operator that you open, you should be having a organization, division, and unit, which will be defined under the work tab. So you can see the organizational unit, which will give you the picture about which unit it belongs to. Okay, so Pega.com is the organization name, administration is the division name, installation is the unit name. So we can even update to which unit this particular operator belongs to. Okay, so here you can see the list of organization as and when you click on the down arrow. Okay, if you remove this and you click on down arrow, you can see the list of organizations which we can also define our own organization as well. So if you are creating an application, you need to specify an organization to whom this application is being owned by. Okay, so that organization is going to be a instance which is being created just like operator, access group, and application. Okay, so as like we see the access group, organization will be again an instance. Okay, organization is also an instance which is also associated with a rule set. Similarly, organization division is also an instance. Organization unit is also an instance. Okay, so this will be automatically generated when you create a new application. So whenever we are defining it, we need to specify to which division the application is being owned by. So you can define this organizational units before even before you even creating a new application by using a landing page called org and security. So you can see there are different categories under these landing pages where you can use this organization, and inside this you have an organizational chart. So this landing page will help you to derive what kind of or what is the organizational chart which you can define it. Okay, so you can see here Anthem is one of the client. Okay, under this Anthem, utilization management is one such division, and inside this there is something SP is one some small unit. Okay, so something like that. So it is kind of a abbreviated form as well. Okay, the unit or the division or the organization, you can define those things in the format of the abbreviated forms as well. Okay, so here there are different organizations that I have created for other course applications. Okay, so since being the trainer, so there are multiple applications that I have created. So for every application, whenever we create, I will go for a new client. Okay, so in this way we can define different organization, division, and units, and I will be associating that application owned to that particular organization. Okay, so in this way these are the ones which I have created already. That one which is by default coming from pega.com is the one. So pega.com is the by default, it comes with a software. Okay, it comes with a software. This is the organization, division, and unit. Okay, so you can see under the records explorer, the under the organization, you can see the organization unit, and division. Okay, so these are the instances that you can see under this. Okay, if you want to see the instance how it is, the form that you want to see, so you can double click on it, you can see this way. Okay, so here you can see definition, chart, history. Okay, so in this way this organization is instance is created and it is associated to a rule set as well. All right, nothing much to know. So just aware of it, like in order to create a new application, it should be owned by an organization, and that organization division unit is a prerequisite to create a new application. This is the terminology that we will use. Any questions?
No, that's
Everything
very
clear.
clear.
All good.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yep.
good.
very well
Coming
explained. Thank
back
you.
to the built on applications. So in every application rule form, you can see there is something called as built on application. Okay, so what is meant by built on application is in order to consume certain features which are already available in another application, and you want to utilize those features, you want to utilize the code which is already there in that application. So you will use the built on application. Okay, so in case if I want to utilize certain features, whatever which are being provided by the Pega platform, okay, I want to utilize the Pega tool itself. In order to develop my application, I want to utilize the features, the components, the rules which are being developed, the libraries which are being developed in the Pega platform by me. Okay, so my application will always be built on top of Pega rules. Remember, every application that we will create, not only we, any enterprise application which are existing, it should be built on top of Pega rules. This is a common platform which will bring us certain things which we are going to utilize the Pega things. So in order to do the development, we need these things, these rules as a prerequisites. So that is the reason for every application that we create, it will be having a built-on application which is mentioned as the name of the application ID and the version as well. Okay, so for my applications which I created, I need to specify the built-on application as Pega rules and the version. Okay, none of the applications can exist without built-on applications. Okay, so this is the standalone application. Pega rules 8 is independent application. It is not dependent on any other application. This is the provided by Pega platform. So Pega software is being given with all these rule sets, which we can utilize it only once we will specify the built-on application as Pega rules. So whenever we create a new application, if you open that application, you will always see the built-on application specified as Pega rules and the version as well. Okay, that means it is going to consume the features which are being developed in the application Pega rules under the version whatever we specify. If you specify 7, we are consuming the features of Pega 7. If you specify 6, you are consuming the features of Pega 6, provided that installation that you do, it is having that particular version available with it. Okay, so by default we have installed Pega 8 version, so we doesn't have Pega 7 version to see. All right, so it is going to have the list of components which are supportable in Pega 8 version. All right, so this is something you need to know. So there are different built-on applications that you can use it. Okay, now coming back to, there are two different types of applications. So one is, this is we learn built-on application is specified, and next is types of application. Okay, so there are two types of application. One we call it as framework application, and other one is implementation. Okay, so what is meant by framework and what is meant by implementation? Framework application is nothing but a template. So application given as a template that we can use as a built-on and create a new application on top of it. If you have given a framework, that means there's a template already available, and that template will reduce the work. So Pega has some additional frameworks provided on top of platform. There are certain frameworks which are being given by Pega, which is with an additional cost. Okay, it's not free. So in addition to the platform, if we want to utilize certain applications which are already existing, so we can utilize that framework, and on top of that framework we can create a new application. Okay, so whatever the application that we are going to utilize directly by the users, so that is called as an implementation application. So directly we can utilize in the production. That means directly the end customers can use this application. Okay, so implementation application is always directly end customers or end users will use it. Okay, so nothing, the implementation is a ready to use application. Framework is a template. Framework is a template that can be reused. Okay, so I'm going to elaborate more on the framework side. Now I have created one hospital application where the patients who are coming to the hospital, so the way the services are being provided by this hospital, so that is something I have created for a specific, for a generic way, in a generic way. Okay, now this is basically a framework. Okay, so the hospital services which are there, I have created one template, and this template can be customized, can be modified based on the organizations or based on the country where exactly this application is getting used. In India, maybe this there is a separate implementation created on top of this framework, okay, so that I can reuse the generic and the common functionality, and on top of this common functionality I will customize based on the India region. Similarly, the same template can be utilized in Australia or a US region where they can customize based on their country. Okay, so the policies can be updated as part of their region. So there could be some common functionality which can be kept in the template, and there could be some specific functionality which can be kept as a implementation. Okay, so framework is something like you develop something and there is a scope that you may increase this sales to some other region as well. Okay, so there is an application that you have created for now which you may have expand in future for some other regions as well. Okay, so in that case you will choose to create a framework layer. So you will create an application by choosing the option framework when you have a larger scope of enhancing or implementing or expanding the sales in different regions as well. Okay, so any customer who is going to utilize their applications in multiple regions, or they have a plans to expand their business in other locations as well. So in that case, they doesn't need to rebuild the applications altogether. They can utilize some of the common functionality and they can have a specific implementation created on top of it. All right. So this is the benefit of the framework applications. So Pega is also having certain frameworks given in terms in all the areas, in the area of banking or in the area of financial sector or in the area of insurance, healthcare. Okay. So I can just go through the pdn.pega.com, which is an official website to verify the Pega Discovery Network. Okay, so PDN stands for Pega Discovery Network. So where you can see whatever the Pega is providing, we can verify via this way. Okay, so you can see under this community hubs, you have certain products given. Okay, so these are also called as the frameworks. So customer decision hub is a framework, customer service is a framework, sales automation is a framework. So you can see there are a lot of products which are being provided in Pega, which can be utilized as a framework. Okay, so there are multiple frameworks available. So we can utilize these framework for the easy way of doing the development. Okay, so platform is given, and platform is also providing certain framework applications for the faster development. No need of again redevelop already existing things. Okay, so far there are a lot of customers in Pega, they might have already utilizing these frameworks. So you can see by industry where these are the domains where the Pega frameworks are available. So under the healthcare, government, financial services, cross-industry communications, life sciences. So there are multiple frameworks provided where you can expand and see there are different frameworks available based on the requirement. Okay, so this is an additional chargeable framework. So where the Pega will provide these frameworks, and on top of this framework, we can develop our implementations. Okay, so these are the frameworks where you can go through it if in case you are interested to know what does this framework is doing it. Okay, so this will elaborate about what this framework application. Okay, so whatever the application is providing, so these things it is being documented in it. All right, so these are different frameworks which are available with respect to the domains. So these applications which you want, which organizations who want to consume the frameworks, they can consume the framework, they can build their implementation on top of it. All right, so this is a faster way of doing the development and faster way to bring into the market. Okay, so it doesn't need to recreate everything. We can use the software and we can even use the frameworks to utilize the things which are already there. All right, so there is no specific restriction given in terms of building the application on one another. Okay, all right. Now let's okay. Okay, so basically the Pega platform, the Pega applications generally are defined in the situation layer cake in this way. So we can call it a situation layer cake. So this concept which I'm explaining right now is a situation layer cake. This is nothing but the applications that are being built on top of another. Okay, so one application is built on top of another. Okay, now initially, as you know, every application should be having the base application, the default application, which I have mentioned as Pega rules. Okay, Pega rules and the version. So by default, any application that you create, it should be built on top of Pega rules. Okay, and it should be having the version as well. So which version of Pega rules it is? All right. So any application that we create, it should be built on top of Pega rules always. That is the reason always you see the built on application of the last application will always be the Pega rules. All right. On top of this Pega rules, you can define either a framework layer or you can define an implementation layer. So you can have the frameworks created on top of Pega rules, or you can create an implementation created on top of Pega rules. Okay, so you have this option to select either of it, either framework or implementation. Okay. On top of framework, you can have one implementation or you can have multiple implementations as you wish. Okay, so today you may have only one implementation, but tomorrow you have an option to expand the business to some other few more implementations as well. So there is no specific restriction that you can create only one implementation. So you can have one multiple implementations created. Okay, so this is one implementation and this could be a second implementation. Okay, so this way you can have multiple implementations created on top of one framework. Okay, this can be independent, this can be independent. All right, so this way we can define a multiple applications built on top of one another. Can we create one more implementation on top of another implementation? Yes, this is also allowed. Okay, so you can still create another implementation on top of one implementation as well. So Pega doesn't have any such restrictions in terms of can we have one implementation on top of implementation or framework on top of implementation. So that kind of restrictions are not available. You can create however you want as long as you manage the applications. It is your headache. Okay, but the more the number of implementation, more the number of layers that you introduce, it is more maintenance overhead. Okay, so right now most of them they are following the new most of them they are following directly creating an implementation on top of Pega rules if it is a smaller application. If it is a larger organizations, so they are following the trend of first they are definitely they need to have a Pega rules. On top of it, they are maintaining the organization rule set, organization application. So whatever the common things which are common across all the Pega applications with specific to the organization, we are going to have one implementation created with respect to the all the common functionalities specific to the organization. We will keep it in the organization layer. Okay, and on top of it sometimes a division specific layer also we can have it. So we can even include a division layer on top of organization layer. Okay, that means you are creating an application with a division name. Okay, with the division name, in with that division name, whatever the applications which are built for, so those divisions will consume certain things. Okay, so that division specific things, the division specific rule sets we will maintain in that application. It is up to you however you organize it, but this, the way that we call it as, this is an organization layer. Okay, the names that we are going to call it as, by default any application it should be standing on top of Pega rules. That is common, either you choose 8 or 7 or whatever version it is, but by default the base application will always be the Pega rules. And on top of it you can even define an application for the organization standards to follow. Okay, so this can be called as an organization layer. All right, so this is up to you how you define, but we can have, you can call it as an organization layer. And in general, most of the organizations they already have an organization layer created, so that all the applications which are being driven, all the Pega applications which are being driven for my organization, so we will consume certain rule sets and we will try to keep those common functionality in that organization layer rule sets. Okay, this is optional. Division is, most of them they may not use it, but you can remember this is something they can have it, or it's up to the client. They cannot maintain the division layer. Okay, but even straightforward on top of organization layer also, they can even define a implementation layer which is ready to be usable. Okay, or they can have a framework on top of it and they can have an implementation on top of it. So there is no such restriction that you define the built on applications. Okay, sometimes you can utilize certain other applications as well. Okay, so for this implementation I may utilize this framework, or I may utilize two other frameworks as well. I am going to use another framework as well. Okay, that means I'm utilizing two more frameworks for this implementation. Okay, so I can define two frameworks can be used. Two frameworks can be used in this implementation. Okay, I can use the rules which are developed by framework 1 and framework 2 both in this implementation which I have created. Okay, so how you can do? You can define multiple built-on applications over here. You have an option to add two applications. Okay, so you can define both the applications which you want to consume, that and the version as well. Okay, so this is something like, it is up to you how you add the applications which are dependent. Okay, so whatever the application which is on the top, that is given the higher precedence than the applications which are at the bottom. Okay, so the rules which are developed in the higher application will be given the first priority than the rules which are given in, which are created in the next one. I hope you understood what I'm saying.
Can you
Yep.
clarify what you mean by priority?
Okay, I will be discussing more detail in the priority wise, but as of now, just remember that you can utilize the features provided by both applications in this application which I have created. Okay, so the features which are there in this application A and application B both can be utilized in the application which I am going to create. Okay, so this multiple built-on applications we can define it in the application form. Okay, so there is a something like supply password to update. This is something like you can set, if you doesn't want to update by anyone else. So if you doesn't want to add anything in this or modify anything in this form, you can always set the password for your application. This is something like Pega doesn't want to anyone to update this particular application, because this is something we need to use it as it is. We should not be changing anything, and we are not supposed to as well. Okay, because this is the core platform, core library which Pega is providing, and we need to just use as a built-on application to consume the rules which are there in these rule sets. All right.
Yep.
Now, moving on to the next terminology, which is called as skin. If you see under the presentation, you have something called as skin. Okay, so here, whatever the Pega provided rules which are available, so they are having the terminology starting with PX, PY, and PZ. So yesterday also have mentioned the rules that are provided by Pega platform starts with PX, PY, and PZ. The names, most of the rules that are provided by Pega, so you can see with the namings, it starts with PX, PY, and PZ. There's a significance which rule starts with PX, which rule starts with PY, and which rule starts with PZ. But for now, remember that these rules, the rules which are by default provided by Pega, so those will start with PX, PY, and PZ. Okay, so here you can see PY end user is the name of the skin. Now, skin is what is meant by skin is, as it is mentioned, this is used for the presentation purpose. Okay, so the way it is developed, the way the look and feel it is coming, so where you can see the gray color and the white color presentation. So this is something coming with respect to the skin. Okay, so skin is something like the styles that you can include it, the styles that you can update it, the styles that you can use it for the application development. So across the application development, it is going to use this skin. Okay, so we can define the users who are visualizing the once they logs in, they can see the presentation options. So something like if you want to go with a go to meeting invite, so you see this is something like a logo, and here you see there is a different skin they may go with. Okay, so it all depends on how they manage this portal. So their portal, they may have a different skin. So here you can see whenever you are moving on to that particular option, it is showing in a yellow color underline. Okay, so this is something like GoToMeeting has provided its own skin. Similarly, Pega has defined its own skin in this format. So PY end user is coming by default from Pega. You can define the end user skills. So when we define our own application, our own portal, we can define our own skin as well. Okay, so you can see the skin options are available by going by navigating to the application name and clicking on the skin. So this will show you the default skin which is mentioned in the application. So in the application, whatever the name which is provided, so that skin is something it is coming. So there are a lot of options which we can also define under the skin, which helps us to derive the look and feel. I'm not going through this particular rule right now because there are a lot of options in this. But as of now, remember the terminology skin is used for look and presentation options. So how the kind of combinations, the color combinations, the fonts which are being used. So all of these are defined under this PYN user skin. So the skin which you have called out in the application. Okay. So by default, when we create a new application, it will create a new skin as well. All right. So
So
skin is another terminology, and
would we
yeah, go
be able
ahead.
to like view the current skin in the end user portal? Is that how we
What
would
do we?
we
Sorry,
would view it?
I didn't.
Um,
Sorry,
so
can you
like
repeat?
if we if we change the skin, would we be able to see
Mhm.
the change in the end user portal?
Yes. So in case
Okay.
if you change the skin, you can see the change in the end user portal as well. And of course,
Okay.
while you define the portal as well, you have a complete authority to update the is a PY case manager 7 is a portal. So here also you can see default to application skin. So if you want to use the same skin which is available in the application which is defined, as application whatever the default skin which is pointed, if you want to use the same skin, you can use this option default to application skin in the portal. If you want to customize with other skin, you can always go with selecting some other skin here. So you can define different skins and you can provide that skin over here. Okay. So for this to understand, you must need to have a bit knowledge on CSS. Okay. Otherwise, we can learn what is application skin which is being provided. The options is easy to understand, not much to understand all the CSS, but in the background, all right. So as of now, if in case we doesn't define any other skin, you can mention in the application. All right. So skin is always to define to display for the display purpose. Okay. So right now, if I launch a portal of case manager, so you can always see the look and feel of the skin which is provided by, which is already defined in it. Okay, the application skin which is defined in it. All right, so let's start creating a new creating a new application. If there's anything new, we'll discuss more. All right, so here you can use the build from scratch option. So since these are already created applications, you can even utilize this application built on application existing application. So this will be a built on application. So these are something like a
So are all of these frameworks?
frameworks or implementations. So I can use a framework. You can see some of the applications which has the name FW. So this will be a framework. Okay, so FW is a short form of the framework. So most of the times when you see the new applications, the applications which has FW, okay, it is having FW, it stands for framework. Okay, so that kind of short forms generally people will use while doing the development. Okay, so in general, if in case while we are building from scratch, while you see that the software is installed fresh, then you will see only this option built from scratch. Defined a framework, then you can select for the next time work or a implementation by selecting that particular implement framework layer. So that becomes your build on application. Now coming to this, so here you have YKit, Cosmos, React. So these are nothing but the skins, something which is this theme, this kind of rich user experience that users get in Pega 8. Theme UI kit is the one which is used in Pega 7 version. A bit normal UI, you can say. This is something user experience. This is a regular user interface design, okay, a flex design that Cosmos React is a paid one, which is more with the help of, so it has the libraries which it is provided in this Cosmos React. Okay, so as of now, the personal edition recommends us to go with theme Cosmos. So all of these, the concepts are same. The UI, okay, but the concepts will be same. Let's go with the theme Cosmos, and I will define one HR application. Okay, what all the backend things which will we need to configure, which we can configure. See the application structure. Either you choose a framework or an implementation. If you choose a framework, in the back rules which are created, it is the rule sets which are going to be created. It if you doesn't have a longer scope of enhancing your application to some other regions or some that customization, if it is not required and you doesn't maintaining the applications, then you can straightforward go. It is purely the decision made by the LSA, okay, who is and the person who is involved. They will decide which whether to go with a framework or implementation. As a developer, start things, not going to create application always. Okay, it's a one-time activity, and one time you will define the application. Now I'm defining one of the application with the framework layer. Okay, with the name application. The initial version of the application always starts with 01.01.01. So application versions can be defined in this format xx.yy.zz. Okay, so initially you can start with 01.01.01. Okay, or else you can straightforward give it as 01 as well. It will accept it. Okay, so there is no number. Moving on to the organization settings. So here you have the name of the organization, division, and unit to which organization you are going to develop this application for. Okay, so here you can specify, you can select the existing organizations which we have already created in the organization chart, or you can even create a new name. Okay, so let's say if I give some name like let's say TCSL, TCSL. I think it requires this version as XXYY, then Z only. Okay. So let's take this version and this same syntax as expected by Pega. Okay. So this way you can see the errors whenever you are giving a wrong. So it all right. So I'm doing with the organization developing this application organization name, and in this I'm going to specify the division as HR division, and let's say further sales unit. Okay, or else we can say RD unit, research and development unit. Okay, so we can define any other unit as well. So this application which I can use for this particular unit. Okay, so here in addition to this organization, so define a class for you. So for every application, there will be a default class created in the background. Okay, so the class which is created, it follows the syntax in this format. Organization name, hyphen. If you have chosen the framework, you will see FW in between. If you haven't, you have selected this implementation, this FW doesn't appear. Okay, so the classes which are created in the application creation, it always follows the syntax in this way. Organization name followed by hyphen. If you have chosen framework, it will come frame FW followed by application ID that you have provided hyphen work.
Yeah. Okay.
Class for you. Okay, so by default, when we create a new application, there will be a default class which will be created for you. Okay, we'll elaborate more on that on towards the class, but understand that the default class with the syntax organization name hyphen fw hyphen application id hyphen verb. So application id that you provide here will be taken into consideration. Organization name that you provide here, it will consider here. If in case you want to include the division layer as well, then you can specify the division layer so that it includes the division name in between. Okay, so sometimes in the interviews, the people may ask, what is the situation layer cake of your application? At the time, you need to explain the organization which you are working for. So you may have an organization layer. On top of that, you may have a framework layer, and on top of it, you may have an implementation layer. So they expect what all the layers that you have it. Okay, so you have a default Pega platform. On top of the Pega platform, you may have organization layer. On top of the organization layer, you may have an implementation straightforward. So that is also a scenario. So they want to understand how your application's situation layer cake, how your application layers are built for. Because generating the division layer is optional. You can have it or you cannot have it. Okay, so if you select this division and unit layer, it will create the classes by including the division name and the unit name in between. Okay, so while it is defining the classes, it is going to append hyphen followed by the division, hyphen followed by the unit. If it doesn't select, it will just give you the simple class format in this way. Most of the times, I don't see the division layer and units are defined. You can simply go with the default class structure is in this way. Are you okay with it or?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you explain like one more time what the version is exactly?
This version?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, whenever you start doing a new application creation, you may have some minimal number of features given in that application. So you may not have an extensive all the capabilities provided initially. You may start the application with some major things which you want to go with the business. Going forward, year on year, okay, so maybe your plan for 2024 in this application is to recruit a candidate only. Maybe in future you may want to expand this application for onboarding the candidates as well. So the onboarding features that you will develop, you may take it into granted for the next year, which is 2025. The features that you are providing in the year 2025, you may keep it in another version called 02. Okay, so every version will have a separate rule sets inside it. You have multiple rule sets defined in it. Okay, so each and every application can have multiple versions, and each and every version can have different rule set versions. Okay, so rule set versions I haven't explored much, but you can define different rule set versions under each and every application, because the rule set versions is only the one where you will package the code whatever you develop. So whatever the code we develop, we keep it specific to the versions, so that restrictions will be given based on the versions that we would like to give a that we would like to support in that particular version. Okay, so 01 version will support xyz features. 02 version XYZ plus ABC features as well. That means in addition to the XYZ features which are already existing, 02 is providing more capabilities, and that 02 may be released in 2025. 01 which is already we are working on, which may be given to the users in next year. Okay, you may something similarly, you may keep on increasing the versions based on the enhancements that you create, based on the scope of the project. Okay, so based on the scope of the business, you will increase the versions, and based on the versions you will add the below rule set versions as well, just like Pega platform is doing. Pega platform initially were there in 6 version. Pega platform moved to Pega 7 version. It is having a different rule sets. Okay, so by the time when Pega 7 was there, these rule sets versions were not 08. These rule set versions were 07. Okay, that means the code which is developed in Pega 7 will have that code embedded, the code which is packaged in 07 version. Similarly, the Pega Platform 6 is having 06 version. Okay, these many libraries were not there in Pega 7. 55 libraries are there here. So 55 rule sets are available. But these many are not there in Pega 7. It is having around 30 or 32, 35. Okay, so something around that. Okay, if you go beyond below that Pega 6, it may be a bit lesser as well. Okay, it might be having something somewhere around 20 to 15 to 20. Okay, so that is rule sets is lesser comparatively. That means you are increasing the scope of the Pega platform. You are increasing the platform. In the year 2020, this feature is, these are the features. In the last 10 years back, when Pega 6 was there, so at that time 2010, there's very less capabilities were there. Okay, so that capabilities are being provided in the rule set versions only, and that rule set versions you are specifying here in the application. All right, so app version is going to decide what kind of features it is going to provide you. Okay,
Yeah, it's clear. Thank you.
all right, moving on to create a new application. So this wizard is the one. So now I'm saving this, is already there, the name HR app. So I'm going to have something like HR app framework. Let's create a framework. Okay, and let's see, save. All right, so this is HR application framework. I'm defining FW, and as and when I create an application, it creates the application for me. So all the background things are all the background rules will be created, which are necessary to define an application. So it will be giving operator ID for us. Okay, so by default, so application has been created. Okay, successfully. We can include the users so that we can access this application. Okay, so we can include the user something like Raviraj HR. Okay, or else I can say recruiter. Okay, and I can use the access group. So this is the default access group called the theme Cosmos authors. Okay, so this is the access group which is already created along with the application. Okay, so along with the application there's an access group which is created, so I can use this. There is only one access group created, so I can use this access group associated to this operator. Okay, so I'm creating a new operator. It requires a mail ID. So recruiter at the rate TCSL. Generally, we will give the organization name, right, in the email address. So I'm going with this recruiter at the rate TCSL, which is organization name.com. Okay. So I have created this operator for now, and that's done. Okay, now I need to see this operator recruiter at the rate TCSL. So you can just navigate to the records explorer and go towards the operator ID, and here you can see the list of operators which are created. So you can see recruiter at the rate tcsl.com, where it is having a new access group which is created called application ID colon authors. Authors is the name of the role which the accesses are provided. Okay, so here this is an access group which is created with the help of application wizard. Okay, and in addition to the access group, you can see there is an application also created for me. Okay, and this application has the rule set specified here. So you can see the application has the application rule sets with the name as HR app FW, the name of the application, followed by there's an integration rule set as well. INT stands for integration. So application name specific rule sets, application integration rule sets, the name of the organization which we have given. With that name also, it has created a rule set and the organization integration rule set as well. Okay, so here this is the one which is application rule sets which are created. And since we have used a theme Cosmos, so theme Cosmos is another application which has the default presentation options defined in this theme Cosmos application. Okay, so if I open this application from the built on applications, if I open this, so what happens is it has certain presentation options defined under the rule set theme Cosmos. Okay, so this theme Cosmos has a version 03-01, and you can see the built-on application for this theme Cosmos as Pega Rules. Okay, so Pega Rules is the default application. Now you can understand the situation layer cake of my application, how it is defined is, so it is having the Pega Rules as the default application. On top of it, what is that? We have theme Cosmos. On top of it, we have HR framework. Okay, so we have HR framework, theme Cosmos, and Pega Rules. Okay, so these are the three applications that we have it. Okay, that means Pega Rules is the default application which Pega platform has. Theme Cosmos is the one which is providing the presentation options, and that presentation options are being utilized in this application HR app framework, because by the time when we selected creating a new application, we have chosen theme Cosmos. If you have chosen UI theme UI kit, traditional UI kit, it will give you a different application over here. Okay, so in this way, the applications and the versions which are being used, so you can see here, if I have pointed to the theme Cosmos 02 version, it may be having a different rule set versions. So you can see here it is having 02-01. Okay, so if I open a rule set, you can see the list of rules which are there in this particular rule set. So you can see this is the rule set which is having three versions: 01, 02, 03. Okay, so under each and every version, you have these many rules created. Okay, so in 03 version, which is supported in Pega 8.6 version. Okay, the theme Cosmos is available from 8.6. Sorry, theme Cosmos is available from 8.3 onwards. Okay, in 8.3 and 8.4, there are some capabilities provided in these 763 rules count. Whereas in 8.5, it increased few more things, which brought few more rules into picture. Okay, and in 03, you see there are few more things added, and that is the reason the rule count has increased. Okay, so this rule count will tell you the development, the code which is there in that rule set. Okay, so those number of rules are created under that rule set. Okay, so every rule set will have a syntax of following in this way. Okay, so the rule set which is created, it follows the format of XX, YY, and ZZ. Okay, XX XX stands for major version, YY stands for minor version, and ZZ stands for patch version. There's a significance of increasing these versions as well. So always remember, the versions will start from either major version, minor version, or patch version. Any of these versions will starting from 01 to 99. 01 is the starting one and 99 is the last one. Okay, so you will define your application starting from 01 major version, 01 minor version, 01 patch version. Okay, so incrementally you will be adding your code into each and every versions. You will increase the versions one after another. That means in each and every major version, you can have starting from 01, 01, 01 to 01, 01, 99. That means there are incrementally 9800 versions. So almost like 99 versions are available. Okay, so you can define under each and every rule set, you can define multiple versions. So you can define incrementing to 2, incrementing to 3. So in this fashion, you will increase the patch versions first of all. Patch is nothing but a minor fixes, minor changes that you are incorporating into the development. Okay, so something like you did some work in this week, you want to save it somewhere. So what you can do, you can use one version. Okay, so after doing this version, you will increase to the next version in the next week. Okay, so the next week of work, whatever we are doing, we want to keep it in another version. So it is always given the authority to your lead system architect to give you a version which you need to use it. Okay, so which version to be used while we are doing the development is something decided by your LSA. Okay, your lead system architect will tell you which version you need to use it while you are doing the development. All right, so you have multiple versions given and you will use based on the which enhancement you are doing it. Okay, so something like this. So if in case you increase the patch versions until 99 you have already received, so you have gone through each and every patch version till 99, then the next version will be your minor version increment. That means you will go to the next minor version increment once you are done with your patch versions. Okay, there is no hard and fast rule to use only after completion of 99. As you have seen over here, it can be directly jumping to the next major version as well. Okay, so usually Pega, whenever they are introducing a new version, so they will increment the major version straight away. Okay, so major version can be incremented, even that can be that can be decided by the platform. Okay, or they can decide their own application. Similarly, you can decide your own application which versions you want to keep it, when you want to increment it, okay, when you want to lock it. As long as you are doing the development, you can keep it as unlocked. Okay, as and when you are working on it, you can define the versions. Okay, so let's say you can define the versions in this way. So you can increment the patch versions or you can increment the minor version. So as and when you want to as and when you want to use to create any rules in that particular rule set version, you can define it. And the rule set which is in unlocked state is eligible to keep the rules in that particular rule set version. You cannot keep the rules inside any of the rule set versions which are locked. So this states that you cannot create any rules inside these rule set unless you know the password of this rule set. I can lock this particular rule set version if I know the password. Oh, sorry, I can lock it. Once I lock it, I can only open it because I only know the password. Okay, so that is the reason generally these rule set management will be taken care by one person itself in the organization. Not everyone will be given the passwords, so that it creates a lot of issues. Okay, so somebody forgets the password. Once they set a password, then it will be difficult to again unlock it. You cannot unlock the rule set which is locked with some password. Only you need to remember it. There is no other option to, like, forget password options are not available. You can either create a new version, that is the only option. All right, so there are major, minor, patch versions can be defined for every rule set. Okay, so for every rule set, we will have multiple versions, starts from 01 to 99. You will increment the patch versions and then you will move to the minor version and then you will move to the major versions. Okay, so this is a sequence generally followed. Only when there is a major application development happening, then only you will go for the major version. Okay, so for the small enhancements, you doesn't always keep on incrementing the major versions. Okay, so you won't, in order to come to 99, it may not take that easy. It is not that easy. Okay, so the major version, when it comes to 99, it never happens most likely. Okay, so because there are a lot of versions in between, so all 99, 99, 99 cannot be done. Okay, so that is how the system is developed. Okay, so you have the rule set and you have the rule set versions, and this rule set versions, when it is listed in the application, this will give you the features which are being there in this version and the below versions only. When I have specified the application, and inside this application 2.01, I have specified the rule set version as 02-01, the code which is developed till two versions. That means it is going to use only this particular thing, 924 and 763, not these rules which are developed in 1008. Okay, so it is going to utilize based on the rule set that you have specified in your application. So it will consume the features which are developed in the top two versions only, not the one which is there in 03 version. But whereas if you go to this one, it will support the features provided in 03 version as well, because you have mentioned the rule set version as 03 as well. Okay, so the restriction of which capabilities to be given is decided by this rule set version. Okay, so whatever the code which you can access it, it is going to be decided based on the rule set version pointed in that application. Okay, so that is the reason the application version plays a very significant role in order to give you the capabilities. All right, so here you can see this theme Cosmos 3.01 is built on top of Pega rules, and it is Pega rules 8 version. All right, any questions? I hope you understood so far.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep,
All
all
right.
good.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, all good. Yeah.
All right, good. And now moving on to the what are the other things which are created. Now going to the access group again. So now you can see the application and the version is created. You have an option to go to the App Studio, Admin Studio, and Dev Studio. There is no end user, sorry, there is a user portal as well. So this user portal will come inside this case manager. Okay, so user portal which is specified, that is one end user portal which you can see by default given as case manager 7. No, 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 no. I haven't logged into this. Sorry. Okay, so once I will log in, you will see only the App Studio, Dev Studio, and Prediction Studio, not the Admin Studio, because I haven't seen the Admin Studio over here. Okay, so if I doesn't add this Admin Studio, it doesn't come. Okay, so instead of Prediction Studio, I will add this Admin Studio, and I will make this developer as the default portal. Okay, so now user portal is not a valid. Okay, it's a PY case work. I'm just using the Pega default one. Okay, so Pega PY case worker portal which is there, I am just reusing it. So user portal with that name, it is not available. All right, so here I'm keeping the developer as the default option, so that once I log in, I can see the developer, the Dev Studio by default. Okay, and PX Admin Studio is given so that I can see Dev Studio, App Studio, and Admin Studio, not the Prediction Studio, because I have removed from here. Okay, and you can see the access roles which are being defined over here with the name of the application item. So these are the new access roles created for this access group. These are the access roles created which will include the restrictions that we can include under this each and every access role. All right, these are something which you can open once you log in from your operator ID. Okay, so I will try to log in with this, but I will set the password before that. It is asking to change. I will change the password here because it doesn't know. Setting it to rules. Generally people will set rules as the default password. Okay, submit, save it, and it doesn't want to change. On next login, save it. Okay, now I will log into this operator ID with the credentials. User ID and password has to be noted, and I'm just logging with this username and password I have given as rules. Login. All right, so now you can see this is my new application which is created. Okay, so you can see the HR application framework layer. All right, so this application which I have created, I can go with the definition. You can see the list of rule sets we are created. There is a skin called HR app framework with the name of the application itself. It has created a new skin to me, and this is the built on application which is specified. And since we already gone through the access group, so you know there is only access to App Studio and Admin Studio, and the default portal which is case worker portal is coming under this launch portal. Okay, and apart from this, I have mentioned the class is generated by default for an application. Okay, so you can see the name of the class appears under the App Explorer. Okay, so under this App Explorer, you can see the name of the classes. Okay, so as I have mentioned yesterday as well, that Pega is completely object driven. It is basically completely object driven. So it is following the same principles what Java is providing. So it is going to have a class, it is going to have the object for that class. But this class will have hyphens in between. In general, when we define the classes in Java, it doesn't have any special characters for that class. But in Pega, the classes will have the hyphens in between. Okay, so by default, for every application, there will be a default class created. And this class, you can right click and click on definition. So the class will be mapped to a table as well. Okay, the default class which is created, this class will be pointed to a table, and that table you can verify by clicking on the test connection. If you click on the test connection, you can see the table which is created is this one. So by creating a new application, it has created a class, it has done the mapping to a new table which is also created. A table is also created in the background. Okay, and that table will be used to save the things. Okay, so whatever the things that we are going to generate, it should be generated with the help of associating to a class. Okay, so class will be like a container or a template where you will be associating the rules in it. So whatever the rules that you develop, so those rules you will associate to a class. Okay, so class is basically associated. Again, the class I will be defining as, like you know, in the Java we have two types of classes. One is abstract classes and the other one is concrete class. Hope you remember.
Yep.
Yep.
So class types are two types. One is abstract.
Yeah.
That means it doesn't have any instances in it. Okay, so abstract class doesn't have any instances. Okay, abstract class doesn't have any instances. Why? It is defined to not to have any instances created. It is defined as an abstract class because it is just used for the modeling purpose. You can define certain variables in it and you can utilize that object model for utilizing those variables in it. Okay, but you are not supposed to save that instance anywhere. Okay, you are not supposed to create an object for that class. You cannot create a new object, you cannot store that object. So abstract class is a class which you will define as a template for the model for the modeling purpose. Okay, an abstraction. That means if you want to define the variables, you will just use to define those variables itself. You're not going to store those things anywhere. Okay, you cannot create a new object for it. Okay, so the same concept is being applied in Pega as well. Abstract class doesn't have any instances, no table associated to the abstract classes. Whereas concrete class is basically going to have a table associated to it. Okay, a table is associated for all the concrete classes. So you can create the objects. I can say instances as well. Okay, so you can create the instances in the table which is associated to that concrete class. So by default, this is as like the Hibernate model. Okay, so as like the Hibernate data modeling happens, so the class will be mapped to a table. Okay, each and every class, if it is a concrete class, it is going to be associated to a table. Okay, so definitely if you are having a concrete class defined, you will be associated to a table. If it is a table, then you definitely need to have certain keys defined in it. Okay, so those keys you can see over here. Okay, the class is concrete or abstract, you can see at the top. So the class type you can see on the top. If you go for abstract, you cannot see the other things like keys and all, those are not defined. The test connection is not available. Okay, that means the class is not associated to any table. Okay, but in case if you define the class as concrete, you should be having the keys associated to the table. Okay, and this is a default class which we call it as a class group. Okay, so in Pega by default when we create a new application, it creates a class for you and that class is named as a class group. All right, so the name of the class that it creates by default with by the time of application creation is a class group. A class default created along with application is called as class group. Of course, you can also define a new class groups as well. Okay, so this is the default class which is created by default and that is defined as a class group. There is an option you can also explicitly define a class groups. Okay, you can also define a class group and that class group you can specify which one should be available as a default class group. You have to specify under the access group, under the advanced tab you can specify here. So this is basically the name of the default class group which it comes here by default once you log in. So once you log in and you open the App Explorer, you can see the default class group which is pointed in the access group. Under the advanced tab, whatever the access group which is whatever the class group which is default selected, that will appear over here. Okay, so you can even define the other class groups if you have defined it. Okay, but the one which is default selected, that appears on your App Explorer always. All right, so class group, what is the significance of the class group and what are the other options that we have here is, so whenever we define a class group, it is basically eligible to share this particular table to other classes as well. Okay, so whenever we define a class as a class group, okay, so whenever you define a class is a class group, there is a table associated. Okay, so there is a table associated for that class. Okay, along with it, there is an option to share this table to other classes as well. So that means a table can be shared to other classes. Okay, so I can have another class created and I can share the table which is associated to this class. I can share with other class as well. Okay, so if I have a class A and it is defined as a class, is a class group, and it is having a table associated called table A. Okay, so table A is mapped to class A instances to store. All right, so whatever the objects that we create in for the class A, it is going to store under the table A. All right, whereas if I have class B, I have defined a class B, and I can share the same table underscore A. So the instances that I create for the class B, I can utilize the same table which is already existing, which is already utilized by class A. Okay, now when I define the class B, what option I need to use is belongs to a class group. Okay, if I have chosen belongs to a class group, it will ask me which class group that I need to use it. Okay, so which class group I need to use it? I need to specify the name of the class group. Then only it will share that particular table with this class as well. Okay, that means giving an additional option to share the tables with multiple classes is the one which with the help of class groups we can do that. Okay, so the table will be given for multiple classes. The table can be utilized for multiple classes. Okay, so class A will also use the same table. Class B will also use the same table if you have defined as a class group for class A, and if you have specified belongs to a class group. That means whenever you're defining is a class group, you are saying that this table which is mapped to this class can even be used by some other classes as well. The same table can be utilized by other classes as well. They have an option to choose belongs to a class group, and they can specify the class group name A so that it will use the same table which is utilized by class A. Okay, and there is another option. Is it clear? Are you okay with this? Belongs to a class group or is a class group?
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
It
Yes.
is just that saying the system to share my table. Okay, whenever you are saying that is a class group, it will say that you have to define the keys. Okay, there's a table associated. Whenever you specify belongs to a class group, it is not asking you the keys. Why? The table is already defined. You know the table. Now here it will prompt you the class group name. So this class group name, whatever you specified, it is going to share the table which is associated to this class. Okay, so in this
right,
scenario, you cannot change to belongs to a class group because this is a class group. Okay, so you cannot change to belongs to a class group and specify the same name what this class is. It will throw you an error. Okay, so a class which is already a class group, you cannot specify as a belongs to a class group. Okay, so in this scenario, you can define as a class group. When you define other classes, I will show you, you will have that option called belongs to a class group, specifying this class group name in that class so that it shares the table with the other class as well. This is the table, right? This is the default table. And this table, the same table, will be consumed by other classes as well. All right. If you know, I'm not going to share with any other classes. If you know, if you want to dedicatedly store those instances only with that class instances only, then you will go for the last option, does not belongs to a class group. Okay, so when you say does not belongs to a class group, this is a dedicated table that has to be used only by the same class. So that means this is something saying that system cannot use the table with anyone else. Okay, so this is just a reserved only to be used, only to be used by that class itself. Okay, so that is something does not belongs to a class group. Okay, so does not belongs to a class group will still take the keys because this is also defining a table. Okay, so is a class group, does not belongs to a class group will take the keys because it is having a table with certain primary keys used. Okay, But whereas belongs to a class group is the only option which will share the table by the class group. Okay, so that is the difference. I don't think this can also be done, because by default, once the application is created, it will be having a default is a class group option. Okay, that you cannot change it. Maybe the next subsequent classes that you create, you have an option to change those options. Okay, but my recommendation is just to understand this logic, but don't change in the real time. Okay, because most of the times it's better not to touch the class groups and all. It doesn't update anything in this. Okay, this is just for the understanding purpose itself. All right, because once you update the class groups and all, the tables are mapped to a different thing, and then once the tables are mapped to a different classes, then the instances that you start creating, it will be going into a separate table, into a different table, which is not expected. Okay, so that is the reason while we are changing this to class groups and does not belongs to a class group but belongs to a class group, we should be cautious of not changing anything in order to avoid the issues that it arises. Okay, all right, moving on to this inheritance concept.
Yeah.
Okay, so now coming to the inheritance, so as like we see, there are two types of inheritance: pattern, and the other one is directed inheritance. What is pattern inheritance and what is directed inheritance? So very important to know, because the rules whatever we create, it is going to use it in the sequence of which one comes first and which one is the next priority. Pattern is always the first priority. You can see the checkbox is enabled find by name first. So first priority is given to the pattern inheritance. Okay, so the next priority is given to the directed inheritance. Okay, so as long as this is enabled, the priority is given to the pattern first. Now the pattern inheritance, how it works is, the name of the class that you specify, the name of the class that you see here, it is going to in the direction of bottom to the top. So here you need to know, like, the classes which are created in this is not one, it has created four classes in this. So if you see, this is one class, okay, this is another class. Okay, so organization name hyphen fw hyphen application id is another class created. Similarly, tcsl hyphen fw is another class. tcsl is another class. There are four classes which are there in this. That means the pattern is being followed. Whatever you see the hyphen, so before that hyphen is another class. Okay, so the sequence is always being followed from the more specific to the last one. Okay, so there are four classes which are there, which are available in the system. Okay, so you can see there are four classes in it, and it is going to verify the rules which are created in any of these classes. So you can have the rule created in the TCSL class, or you can have the rules created in TCSL-FW or HR-AppFW or this one. So while executing, it will verify that rule which I am using it, the rule which I am using it, it will check in this class first. If it is not available in this class, it will check to the immediate superclass, which is your HR app FW. If not available in this class, it will check in the next superclass, which is TCSL-FW. If that is not available here, it will go to the organization class. Okay, so this is how the format it goes. If that rule which you are trying to find it out, it is not available, it will go to the directed inheritance class, which is specified with the name over here. So you can see here work dash cover dash is something like Pega has given one of the class, which Pega platform is providing certain classes. So there are certain rules which are already built in this class, which we can utilize them. While we are doing the development, we can utilize certain features which are provided by Pega platform, which are developed in certain Pega classes, and this is one such class. Okay, so work dash cover dash is the directed inheritance class which it will choose to select. Okay, so since the rule which is trying to find it out for execution is not available in this, so what it is doing, it will go and check in the class directed inheritance. Okay, if it is not available here as well, it will go to the class definition of work dash cover dash, and it will see the pattern and directed inheritance class of this one. That means it will go inside this class, it will check what is defined in this. As part of pattern, it should go to the immediate superclass, which is also same, as well as directed inheritance class, it is also same. So it is going to the next one, which is work dash. Okay, and then it comes to, if that class, if that rule is not available in this class, what happens? It will go and open that class definition. If you open the class, it will check which one is there on top of it. So since it is the last one, it will go to the directed inheritance class, which is at the rate base class. Okay, so at the rate base class is the super class in Pega. Okay, what is the super class in Java?
I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure.
think it's a keyword super, yeah. But
So
it's the class
some
from which the subclass comes from, basically. So
right.
it's,
So
yeah.
yeah, so something similar to that. So here base class is always the super class for all the classes. Okay, so in Pega, after the base class there won't be any class. Okay, so if you open the base class, this doesn't have directed, not even pattern, because this is the extreme super class in Pega. Okay, so the rules that we want to utilize it, it should be either available with respect to the pattern inheritance or with respect to the directed inheritance path. Okay, so it is going to utilize the rules based on the pattern or directed inheritance. So you can see by clicking on the right click on the class and click on inheritance, so that you can verify what all the inheritance classes which it is consuming it. So you can see here the pattern inheritance classes here. Okay, so this is the following the pattern, and then work dash cover dash, and then work dash, and then at the rate base class. So this is how it is going to check. It is checking in this class, not found, going to the next super class, next one, and followed by the work dash cover dash from directory inheritance class, and next one, and next one. This is the fun. So this is how the hierarchy is being followed. So the inheritance that is being followed, which based on the class definition. Okay, now you can see here there is a key which is called as PYID. PYID is nothing but a variable. Up- Okay, so I'm saying is a variable, but in Pega we call it as a property. Okay, so as like we use the variables in a class to store a value, right? We will create a variable to store a value. Okay, so in the similar way, we are using these properties to store the values. Okay, and that property we are defining as a key for this class. Now PYID is one of the variable which is also a rule which is coming from some of the inherited classes. Okay, if I click on the double circle, you can see this PYID is created in one of the inherited classes. So you can see work dash cover dash. So it is accepting me to save this class Why? Because this variable is available in one of the inherited classes. Okay, so as part of the rule inheritance, from where it has picked up from this work dash cover dash. So it is checked, it checked all these classes, all these four classes are already verified. It is not available. It got found in this class work dash cover dash. So that is the reason it allowed me to save this particular class.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, so in the similar way, whatever the rules that you create inside this class, I can utilize certain variables which are coming from the Pega classes as well. So there are so many variables, so many things that we will reuse it based on this inheritance itself. If you change this inheritance, it may not consume the things as expected. Okay, so you should define the inheritance in such a way where you can utilize the features or the rules which are being there in the subsequent classes. Okay, as part of pattern or as part of directed inheritance class, it should be accessible, those rules. Okay, so that way we need to specify, with that way we need to define this inheritance. All right, so most of the times the class group will always have this work dash cover dash as the default class. Okay, so that's the default class always. Okay, we just need to understand that this work dash cover dash is the default class which will be added. Okay, so you will just follow the same, you won't change anything, but it will be reusing certain things which are already built in Pega platform that we can consume it. All right, so this is how the class definition is the going to play the role.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, any questions?
Everything clear.
Yeah.
All
All
right,
good.
so this class is associated to a rule set and the version which is here. Okay, as of now this is enough to start creating new case types. So the classes are under the category sysadmin. Okay, so remember the class is also a rule, and that rule is available under the sysadmin category. So you can expand and you can open in this way. Okay, a leaf represents a class. So if you want to see the other classes, you can just specify the name and you will see the class here. So you can see there are other classes apart from the work. So you can see the organization -fw application ID. If you see, there are data classes, integration classes, UI classes, work classes. So the things that you develop it, so work is something like whatever the real-time cases that we are going to use it. So that is something we will store it in this table. But similarly, there are other things which is to capture the data or which is to capture the integration rules or to define certain UI things. So you can utilize certain other classes as well. Okay, so similarly, if you see the TCSL-FW, this is another class. Okay, TCSL, if you go with, this is another class. Okay, so you can see here under the TCSL organization, you have again data, framework, and integration. Okay, so data is also another class. Okay, so everywhere, wherever you see this leaf symbol, this represents this is a class. Okay, so you can expand this and you can see this class as well. Okay, so these are the classes which are default generated along with the application. Okay, along with the application, these are the things which are generated. And at last, what I need to show is the organization, division, and unit, which is also created for us. Okay, so you can see this organization is created, division, and the unit. You can navigate through the landing page called org and security, go to organization and organizational chart. All right, so you can see your organization hierarchy here. Okay, so this is the other things which it got created in the background, especially the classes. Okay, and operator, access group, application rule sets, application skin. So all of these are created along with the application. Okay,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
so tomorrow we are going to discuss about the App Studio. This is again the same development studio that you use it. You can utilize it, but only thing is you may not know all the technical aspects because it is something like a business usable studio. Okay, so business analysts or business analysts can utilize this App Studio to do certain things. So to do the business related operations, they can utilize the App Studio. Okay, so tomorrow I will be explaining the App Studio, what are the options that you can use it. Okay, and then we'll go back to the Dev Studio and what all the things that are generated in the background will see. Okay, because most of the things, this is how it will be. Okay, so you just need to know the options properly, how to configure that options and where to configure that options. Okay, so if you configure the options in the background, Pega will start generating the rules for you. Okay, so Pega will
Sure.
create certain rules. We just need to understand what does that rule is for, what does that option is for, and what is that you need to update it. Okay, so if you update it properly, one simple thing will resolve that issue. Okay, so that for that only we just need to understand each and every options which are there. Okay. All right, so this is how the theme Cosmos is, and
Yeah.
if I navigate to the portal, you can see the more rich user experience portal. This is not the right one. Let me add another uh, portal here. Okay, so you can see here, this is something different than what you see yesterday. The Pega default portal which Pega is getting to us. So that is something different, and this user portal is something you can see here, more rich user experience. The theme Cosmos which is given. So this is something automatically automatically closing the left hand side options, and whenever you come on this it will expand and show you the options. Okay, so this way you can create any of the case types. So tomorrow we will define the case, so that we will define the business inside the case, and then followed by the next subsequent the case, how you will automate the workflows, or how you are going to define the business for the end users to use it. Okay, and there are other options that you can see. So this is how the rich user experience which theme Cosmos is. Okay, so theme Cosmos is something like this. Okay, so you see this my work list, the assignments that you need to work on. So it is appearing on this page. You will see the assignments over here. Okay, I think.
Yeah. Sure.
All right. So if you have any questions, you can. Otherwise, we'll resume tomorrow. And shall we start at a half an hour before?